Welcome to Numina, the only place that's reverse engineered the College Board. We're going to show you how to solve these problems very quickly with mathematical precision and with 100% confidence. That means you no longer have to rely on the answer key, but purely on the power of your knowledge. The mind is a powerful tool, and we're going to show you how to use it. Here's how it's done.
Question 18. Until recently, most people entering politics feel that loss of privacy was a fair price to pay for the chance to participate in policymaking. Okay, let's go to our choices. Again, we're going to go through each choice to make sure we don't miss any errors. Our goal is to get everything right. Make sure that we test for all possible errors that each of these choices may reveal. Let's start with A, entering. Here, we're going to test for modifier errors or verb form errors. So let's take a closer look. Entering. What is entering modifying? Well, most people entering politics feel that loss of privacy was a fair price. You should note here that participle modifiers that follow nouns can imply the relative pronoun and the form of the verb to be. Look at our example here, e.g., who or that plus is or was or were, plus present or past participle. This first part, the who or that is or was were, is implied, and it usually goes right about here, in between people and entering. What do you think, Anthony Sonsini? Is that about right?
That was a fantastic explanation, Brian Zinian. I think if we read that, until recently, most people who were entering politics, we would have a perfect sentence. But again, since expressing who were or writing who were may make the sentence seem a little wordy, we can just get rid of it and then just throw in the participle. In this case, the present participle entering. And then let's move on to verb form. Why wouldn't the past participle work? Well, the past participle of entering is entered. So if we do most people entered politics feel, then it'll get confused with the simple past form of the verb entered. So the past participle here wouldn't work well as a modifier. So we do need to keep this verb form in the present participle.
Great. I think those are great tips for our first choice. Now let's move on to B. Feel. Here we're going to test for subject verb and verb tense. So when we look at subject verb, we need to identify, well, our subject and our verb. Here we go. Most people is our subject, and our verb is feel. Remember, subject and verb must match in number. Well, our subject is plural, and so now it requires the plural form, the plural verb feel. So that looks good. What do you think about the verb tense, Anthony Sonsini? How can we tell?
I think if we just read from most people entering politics feel, we wouldn't really be able to tell whether or not this was written in the correct tense. So I'm going to look at the adverb until recently. Now, until recently means up to now. So basically, if it's up to now, that means before.
Okay.
Right? So this word sets the time frame under which this sentence is working. So let's look at our note here. In order for you to get the tense correct, try to look for words or phrases that set the time frame. In this case, until recently means until now. So if it's until now, that means something must have happened before, because it's until now. And of course, I mean, and yes, politics do sometimes feel. I know some of you think that politicians don't. feel anything. But sometimes they do. So here, if you look at the phrase "until recently," that should automatically help you set the time frame for the main verb "feel," which is now should be in the past tense.
So it looks like we might have potentially an error here at B, right? We might be in the wrong tense.
I think so. I think it would read better if it were written "until recently, most people entering politics felt."
Ah, okay. I see that. Well, should we carry on and check for errors in C and D just to make sure?
Sure.
Great. Let's move on to C. A fair price. Here we're going to test for modifier errors and a number agreement error.
So a modifier error would occur with the word fair, because fair is an adjective.
So fair as an adjective I would guess, and we're testing for a modifier error, maybe fair or fairly? Is that?
It would be one or the other, and that we could use this word. But if we were to say fairly, wouldn't that be an adverb?
Yeah, that wouldn't fit in front of our noun price.
So I guess the fair works here.
Okay, so there's no modifier error here. What about number agreement?
Yeah, I just want to do this check because we're trying to exhaust all the potential errors. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is a modifier or number agreement error here, but the possible errors that C can contain are only modifiers and number agreement. You really can't get any other error out of this choice. And you want to train your brain to be able to exhaust the set of grammatical errors that a choice may contain. And so by doing that, we can be confident whether to circle C or not circle C. So in this case, a fair price seems to refer to the idea, the loss of privacy, and there seems to be no number conflict here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any conflict in the number agreement either. So I think it's safe to say that there's no error in C, and C is okay.
So why don't we move on to D?
Let's move on. D. 4. Here we're going to test for idiom.
Idiom. What do we say about idioms?
Do not chase idioms.
Do not chase idioms. See how often these prepositions are used correctly on the test? Don't chase them. Most likely, if you don't know it, it's probably used correctly. Unless you're 100% sure that it's misused, do not chase idioms.
Correct.
So I'm going to follow my own rule and keep D for now.
We're going to keep D. Well, then we just went through A, B, C, and D. The only thing left is no error. But if I remember correctly, we thought that there was an error in B.
I think B would be better off if it were written in the past tense. What do you think, Bronson?
Actually, reading the whole sentence and scanning it, I think so too. Looks like B, we were right. B was our answer. But we already knew that. Why? Because we checked each choice and we used our knowledge of grammar to eliminate potential errors, and we found one in B.
Let's just read the sentence again and see if it is correct. Until recently, most people entering politics felt that loss of privacy was a fair price to pay for the chance to participate in policymaking. That sounds right.
Yeah, that definitely sounds a lot better. So our answer is B, and the correction is felt.
Noumena, empowering minds.